Help us reach 1,000 subscribers on our new channel Lesbian Stories. We hope you enjoy the story. The late afternoon sun beat down on my '67 Mustang as I cruised along the coastal highway, my camera bag nestled in the passenger seat like an old friend. I'm Julia, 32, a photographer with an eye for beauty and a penchant for getting lost, both in my art and on the road. This impromptu road trip was my desperate attempt to find inspiration, to capture something raw and real through my lens. I spotted a rest stop ahead, its faded sign a beacon of hope for my growling stomach and full bladder. As I pulled in, I noticed her immediately. A flash of fiery red hair caught the sunlight, drawing my gaze like a moth to flame. She was leaning against a sleek sports car, brow furrowed as she peered under the hood. I grabbed my camera instinctively, framing her in my viewfinder before I even realized what I was doing. The shutter clicked, immortalizing her frustrated pout and the way her hair danced in the ocean breeze. She looked up at the sound, our eyes meeting across the parking lot. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. "Hey there, Ansel Adams," she called out, a smirk playing on her lips. "Mind lending a hand instead of just taking pretty pictures?" I felt heat rush to my cheeks as I lowered my camera. "Sorry, force of habit," I stammered, making my way over. "I'm Julia. What seems to be the problem?" "Phoebe," she replied, extending a hand. Her grip was firm, her skin soft against mine, and honestly, I have no damn clue. Cars aren't really my thing. Up close, I could see the flecks of gold in her bright green eyes, the light dusting of freckles across her nose. She was younger than me, maybe 28, with an air of confidence that both intimidated and intrigued me. "Well, cars aren't my forte either," I admitted. "But I've got snacks and a full tank of gas if you need a ride somewhere." Phoebe raised an eyebrow, considering me for a moment. Offering a ride to a complete stranger? Brave or foolish, I can't decide which. I shrugged, surprising myself with my boldness. Maybe a little of both, but hey, life's too short to play it safe all the time, right? She laughed then, a rich melodic sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "You know what? Why the hell not? Let me grab my bag." And just like that, I found myself with an unexpected travel companion. As we hit the road again, I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, like the universe had nudged us onto the same path for a reason. We fell into easy conversation, swapping stories about our lives and careers. Phoebe, it turned out, was a swim coach with a wicked sense of humor and a passion for adventure that rivaled my own. "So, Julia the photographer," she mused, her feet propped up on the dashboard. "What brings you out here on this lonely stretch of road?" I hesitated, weighing how much to reveal. "Searching for inspiration, I guess. Trying to see the world through fresh eyes." Phoebe nodded, her gaze drifting to the passing landscape. "I get that. Sometimes you need to shake things up to really see what's in front of you." As the sun began to set, casting the world in a warm, golden glow, I spotted a scenic overlook ahead. "Mind if we stop for a bit? This light is too perfect to pass up." Phoebe agreed enthusiastically, and soon we were perched on the hood of my car, watching the sky transform into a canvas of pinks and purples. I couldn't resist capturing the moment, turning my lens on Phoebe as she gazed out at the horizon. When I showed her the photo, something shifted in her expression. A vulnerability I hadn't seen before flickered across her features, gone almost as quickly as it appeared. "You have a gift," she said softly, her fingers brushing mine as she handed back the camera. "You really see people, don't you?" Our eyes met, and for a moment, the air between us felt charged with possibility. I found myself wanting to lean in, to close the distance between us. But fear held me back, fear of misreading the situation, of ruining this newfound connection. The spell was broken by the rumble of my stomach, sending us both into a fit of laughter. "Come on," Phoebe said, sliding off the hood. "Let's find a place to crash for the night. I'm starving too." As we drove in search of a motel, the easy banter resumed. But underneath it all, I could feel something new taking root, a spark of attraction, of potential, that both thrilled and terrified me. I'd set out on this trip looking for inspiration, for a way to see the world anew. Little did I know, I'd find it not in the landscapes I photographed, but in the vibrant, enigmatic woman sitting beside me. As we pulled into a small motel on the outskirts of town, I couldn't help but wonder what adventures and revelations the coming days might bring. The neon sign of the motel flickered, casting an eerie glow across the parking lot. Phoebe and I shuffled into our shared room, the weight of the day's journey settling on our shoulders. The space was small, with 2 twin beds and a kitchenette that had seen better days, but it was clean, and more importantly, it was ours for the night. "I don't know about you," Phoebe said, dropping her bag on one of the beds, "but I could use a drink." I couldn't agree more. We raided the local convenience store, returning with a bottle of cheap wine and an assortment of snacks. As the night wore on, we sat cross-legged on our respective beds, trading stories and laughter over plastic cups of Merlot. "So, Julia," Phoebe said, her voice softening, "what's your story? What are you running from?" I paused, swirling the wine in my cup. "Who says I'm running?" She gave me a knowing look. "Nobody just takes off on a solo road trip without a reason. Trust me, I know." There was something in her tone, a hint of past pain that made me want to open up. "I guess I'm running from stagnation," I admitted. "From the feeling that I've lost my edge, my passion." "What about you? What's your story?" Phoebe's gaze dropped to her hands. "Let's just say I've had my heart broken one too many times. Makes it hard to trust, you know?" I nodded, feeling a sudden urge to reach out and comfort her. Instead, I topped off our glasses. "Here's to new beginnings then," I said, raising my cup. She clinked her cup against mine, a small smile playing on her lips. "To new beginnings." The next morning, we discovered a local pool not far from the motel. Phoebe's eyes lit up at the sight. "Come on," she said, tugging at my arm. "I'll give you some tips. It'll be fun." Before I knew it, I found myself in a borrowed swimsuit, standing at the edge of the pool. Phoebe dove in gracefully, surfacing with a grin that made my heart skip a beat. "Your turn," she called out. I hesitated, suddenly self-conscious. "I'm not exactly a strong swimmer," I admitted. Phoebe's expression softened. "Don't worry, I've got you." She swam to the edge, extending her hand. Our fingers intertwined as she guided me into the water. The coolness enveloped me, but all I could focus on was the warmth of her touch. For the next hour, Phoebe patiently coached me through different strokes. Her hands were gentle but firm as she corrected my form, and I found myself hyper-aware of every point of contact between us. The casual touches, the proximity of our bodies in the water, it all felt charged with an electricity I couldn't quite name. As we climbed out of the pool, breathless and laughing, I caught myself admiring the way the water droplets clung to Phoebe's skin. She caught my gaze and held it for a moment, an unspoken question hanging in the air between us. Back in our room, as Phoebe showered, I busied myself with organizing my camera gear. A sketchbook fell out of her bag, landing open at my feet. I knew I shouldn't look, but curiosity got the better of me. The pages were filled with exquisite drawings of women, some clothed, others in various states of undress. The intimacy of the sketches took my breath away. There was a tenderness, a vulnerability in the lines that spoke of deep emotion. I heard the shower turn off and quickly closed the book, my heart racing. When Phoebe emerged, wrapped in a towel with her red hair dripping, I couldn't meet her eyes. "Everything okay?" she asked, noticing my flushed cheeks. I nodded, perhaps a bit too enthusiastically. "Yeah, just thinking about where we should head next." She studied me for a moment, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. "Sure you are," she said, but didn't push further. As we packed up to leave, I found myself stealing glances at Phoebe, seeing her in a new light. The sketches had revealed a part of her she hadn't shared, and it stirred something within me. Curiosity, yes, but also a longing I hadn't expected. We hit the road again, the air between us charged with unspoken questions. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my mind racing. What did those sketches mean? Was Phoebe interested in women? And more importantly, why did the thought make my pulse quicken? As the miles rolled by, I found myself at a crossroads, not just on the highway but in my heart. The connection I felt with Phoebe was unlike anything I'd experienced before. It both thrilled and terrified me. Just as I was about to break the comfortable silence that had settled between us, my phone buzzed. A text message popped up on the screen. "Hey Jules, don't forget my wedding next week. Can't wait to see you. Bring a +1 if you want. Emma." My stomach dropped. Emma, my childhood best friend, my first love, and now, apparently, a bride-to-be. "Everything okay?" Phoebe asked, noticing my sudden tension. I forced a smile, pushing down the wave of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. "Yeah, just an old friend's getting married. Looks like our road trip might have a destination after all." As I said the words, I couldn't shake the feeling that this unexpected detour was about to change everything. The road ahead suddenly seemed a lot more complicated, and I found myself grateful for the enigmatic redhead sitting beside me. Whatever challenges lay ahead, at least I wouldn't be facing them alone. The invitation to Emma's wedding felt like a ticking time bomb in my pocket as we pulled into the hotel parking lot. I'd been uncharacteristically quiet for the last stretch of our journey, my mind a whirlwind of memories and what-ifs. "So," Phoebe said, breaking the silence as we grabbed our bags from the trunk, "want to tell me what's really going on?" I sighed, knowing I couldn't keep dodging her perceptive gaze. "Remember that wedding I mentioned? It's complicated." Phoebe raised an eyebrow, a small smirk playing on her lips. "Complicated how? Ex-boyfriend? Secret love child?" I couldn't help but laugh, some of the tension easing from my shoulders. "Not quite. It's my childhood best friend Emma. She was. Well, she was my first love. First kiss. First heartbreak." Understanding dawned in Phoebe's eyes. "Ah. And now she's getting married." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "To a guy. She never knew how I felt. I never had the courage to tell her." Phoebe was quiet for a moment, her green eyes studying me intently. "And now? How do you feel?" It was a loaded question, one I wasn't sure I had the answer to. "Honestly, I don't know. It was a lifetime ago. I thought I was over it, but seeing that invitation, it brought everything back." As we made our way to our room, Phoebe gently bumped her shoulder against mine. "Hey, for what it's worth, I think you're brave for coming. And if you need a buffer or an escape plan, I've got your back." Her words warmed me, easing some of the anxiety that had been building. "Thanks, I might just take you up on that." The next day, as we got ready for the wedding, I found myself more nervous about having Phoebe as my +1 than about seeing Emma. I watched Phoebe zip up her emerald green dress, the fabric hugging her curves in a way that made my mouth go dry. "You look amazing," I blurted out, immediately feeling my cheeks flush. Phoebe turned, her eyes raking over me in my deep blue gown. "Right back at you, Shutterbug. We're going to turn some heads." The ceremony was a blur of white tulle and tearful vows. I barely registered the words, my attention split between the radiant bride, Emma, still as beautiful as I remembered, and the redhead beside me, whose hand had found its way to mine during particularly emotional moments. It wasn't until the reception that reality came crashing down. Emma spotted me across the room, her face lighting up as she made her way over. "Jules!" she exclaimed, pulling me into a tight hug. "God, I've missed you. And who's this?" I introduced Phoebe, watching as Emma's eyes widened slightly in recognition. Of what, I wasn't sure, but there was a knowing glint in her gaze that made me squirm. As Emma was pulled away by other guests, I felt the walls closing in. The air felt too thick, the music too loud. I mumbled an excuse to Phoebe and fled to the terrace, gulping in the cool night air. I didn't hear Phoebe approach until she was right beside me, her hand a comforting presence on my lower back. "Want to talk about it?" The dam broke. Words poured out of me, about my feelings for Emma, the years of pining, the fear of ruining our friendship. And now, I finished, wiping away a stray tear. Seeing her so happy, I realized it was never meant to be. But it still hurts, you know? Phoebe was quiet for a long moment, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the fairy lights strung above us. Then, slowly, deliberately, she cupped my face in her hands. "Julia," she said, her voice low and intense, "you deserve someone who sees you, really sees you." My breath caught in my throat. The air between us crackled with tension, with possibility. And then, surprising us both, I closed the distance. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, but as Phoebe responded, her lips parting slightly, it deepened into something more, something that felt like coming home and embarking on a new adventure all at once. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and a little dazed, I couldn't help but laugh. "Well," I said, resting my forehead against hers, "that's one way to get over an old crush." Phoebe grinned, her thumb tracing my lower lip. "Happy to be of service. Though I have to admit, I've been wanting to do that since that first day at the rest stop." The admission sent a thrill through me. "Really?" She nodded, pulling me closer. "Really, you're kind of irresistible, you know that?" As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms under the starlit sky, I felt a shift. The weight of my past with Emma, the uncertainty about my future, it all seemed to fade away, leaving only this moment. This woman? "What do you say we get out of here?" I whispered, feeling bold. Phoebe's eyes sparkled with mischief. "I thought you'd never ask." We slipped away from the reception, hand in hand, giggling like teenagers. As we drove through the quiet streets, the windows down and the warm night air whipping through our hair, I felt lighter than I had in years. We ended up at a secluded beach, kicking off our heels and running towards the water. The sand was cool beneath our feet, the sound of the waves a soothing backdrop to our laughter. As we stood at the water's edge, Phoebe turned to me, her expression suddenly serious. "Julia," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I need you to know something. I don't do casual. If this is happening, I'm all in." My heart soared at her words. I pulled her close, reveling in the warmth of her body against mine. "Good," I murmured against her lips. "Because I think I'm falling for you, Phoebe." Hard and fast. Our kisses grew more urgent, hands roaming, exploring. The sound of the waves faded away, replaced by the rush of blood in my ears and the soft sighs escaping Phoebe's lips. "Hotel?" she gasped between kisses. I nodded, already pulling her towards the car. As we drove, stealing glances and touches, I couldn't help but marvel at the twists of fate that had brought us here. What had started as a chance encounter had blossomed into something beautiful, something real. And as we stumbled into our hotel room, shedding clothes and inhibitions, I knew that this was just the beginning of our story. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. For the first time in a long time, I was excited for the future, and the woman I'd be sharing it with. The soft glow of the bedside lamp cast long shadows across the hotel room as Phoebe and I stumbled through the door, our hands intertwined, hearts racing. The air was thick with anticipation, the silence broken only by our ragged breaths and the rustle of fabric as we shed our formal wear. "Are you sure about this?" Phoebe whispered, her green eyes searching mine for any hint of hesitation. In response, I pulled her close, capturing her lips in a kiss that left no room for doubt. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I breathed against her mouth. What followed was a dance of exploration and discovery. Phoebe's fingers trailed fire across my skin as she helped me out of my dress, her touch reverent and eager all at once. I marveled at the softness of her skin, the gentle curves of her body as I slowly peeled away her emerald gown. Time seemed to slow as we fell onto the bed, a tangle of limbs and whispered endearments. Phoebe's hair fanned out on the pillow like a halo of flames, and I couldn't resist running my fingers through it, marveling at its silky texture. "You're beautiful," I murmured, tracing the constellation of freckles across her collarbone with my lips. Phoebe's response was a soft gasp, her back arching as I explored lower, mapping every inch of her body with kisses and caresses. The room filled with the sound of our sighs and moans, a symphony of pleasure and connection. As the night wore on, we took turns leading and following, each touch a revelation, each kiss a promise. I reveled in the way Phoebe responded to my touch, the way she seemed to know instinctively what I needed. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, raw, passionate, and achingly tender all at once. In the quiet moments between, we talked and laughed, sharing secrets and dreams in hushed tones. Phoebe told me about her first heartbreak, the woman who had inspired many of the sketches I'd glimpsed in her notebook. I opened up about my fears of never finding true connection, of always being on the outside looking in. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the curtains, we lay tangled together, spent but utterly content. Phoebe's head rested on my chest, her breath warm against my skin. "What happens now?" I asked, my fingers tracing lazy patterns on her back. Phoebe propped herself up on an elbow, her gaze intense. "Now," she said, a slow smile spreading across her face, "we figure it out together, if that's what you want." I pulled her down for a kiss, pouring all my emotions into it. "It's exactly what I want." We dozed off as the sun rose, wrapped in each other's arms and the promise of a new beginning. Hours later, we reluctantly checked out of the hotel, our bodies pleasantly sore and our hearts full. As we loaded our bags into my Mustang, reality began to creep back in. "So," Phoebe said, leaning against the car, "where to now, Shutterbug?" I hesitated, suddenly aware of the crossroads we found ourselves at. I'm not sure. My life, my work, it's all back in Fort Lauderdale." Phoebe nodded, her expression thoughtful. "And my coaching job is there too. But Julia, she took my hands in hers, her gaze intense. I meant what I said last night. I'm all in, whatever that means, wherever it takes us. Relief and joy washed over me. Then let's go home, I said, pulling her close. Together. The drive back to Fort Lauderdale was filled with laughter and stolen kisses at red lights. We made plans and daydreamed about the future, the possibilities stretching out before us like the open road. Back in the city, life took on a new rhythm. I threw myself into a new photography project, with Phoebe as my muse. She brought a vibrancy to my work that had been missing, her presence inspiring me to see the world through fresh eyes. We spent our days exploring the city, finding hidden gems and quiet spots where we could steal moments alone. Evenings were filled with shared meals, long conversations, and nights that left us breathless and craving more. But as idyllic as it was, real life had a way of creeping in. Deadlines loomed, bills needed paying, and the honeymoon phase began to give way to the realities of building a life together. One evening, as I pored over proofs for an upcoming gallery show, Phoebe came home looking troubled. "Everything okay?" I asked, immediately concerned. She sank onto the couch beside me, her brow furrowed. "I ran into my ex today," she admitted. It brought up a lot of old feelings. A pang of jealousy shot through me, followed quickly by guilt. "Do you want to talk about it?" Phoebe shook her head, then leaned into me. "Not really. I need you to know that what we have, it's different. It's real. I've never felt this way about anyone before." I wrapped my arms around her, pressing a kiss to her temple. "I know," I murmured. "Me neither." As we sat there, holding each other close, I realized that the quiet moments, the vulnerability, the unwavering support, this was what love truly meant. It wasn't always grand gestures and passionate nights. Sometimes it was simply being there, a steady presence in the storm of life. The next day, determined to show Phoebe how much she meant to me, I surprised her with an impromptu photo shoot at her favorite spot in the city, a hidden garden tucked away in the heart of downtown. As I captured her laughter, her quiet moments of contemplation, the way the light played across her features, I felt my heart swell with emotion. Through my lens, I saw not just her physical beauty, but the depth of her spirit, the strength of her character. "These are incredible, Julia," Phoebe said later, as we looked through the photos together. "You really do have a gift for seeing people." I smiled, pulling her close. "I see you," I whispered. "All of you. And I fall more in love every day." As the sun set over Fort Lauderdale, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. Our journey was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take us. The weeks flew by in a whirlwind of creativity and passion. My camera became an extension of my soul, capturing not just images but emotions, moments, the very essence of life itself. And at the center of it all was Phoebe. My muse, my partner, my everything. Our days fell into a comfortable rhythm. Mornings were a tangle of limbs and sleepy kisses, followed by Phoebe heading off to the pool while I set up shoots or edited photos. Evenings were ours, shared meals, walks on the beach, and nights that left us breathless and craving more. But as the date of my gallery opening approached, the pressure began to mount. I spent long hours in my makeshift studio, obsessing over every detail. Phoebe was patient, bringing me coffee and gentle reminders to eat, her presence a calming anchor in the storm of my creativity. The night before the opening, as I fretted over the final selections, Phoebe wrapped her arms around me from behind. "They're perfect," she murmured, her chin resting on my shoulder. "You're perfect." I turned in her embrace, losing myself in the depths of her green eyes. "I couldn't have done this without you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You've brought color back into my world." Her response was a kiss that left me dizzy, followed by a night of passionate exploration that pushed all thoughts of the gallery from my mind. The opening night arrived in a flurry of anticipation. The gallery buzzed with energy, critics and art lovers alike murmuring appreciatively as they moved from piece to piece. I stood off to the side, my hand clasped tightly in Phoebe's, watching as people reacted to my work. "They love it," Phoebe whispered, squeezing my hand. "How could they not?" I was about to respond when a familiar voice cut through the crowd. "Julia? Is that you?" My heart dropped as I turned to face the speaker. There, looking as polished and put together as ever, stood Claire, my ex-fiancée. "Claire," I managed, my voice strangled. "What are you doing here?" She smiled, that same smile that used to make my knees weak. I saw the write-up in the paper. I had to come see for myself. Your work is... It's incredible, Jules. I felt Phoebe stiffen beside me, her grip on my hand tightening almost painfully. Thanks, I said, forcing a smile. Claire, this is Phoebe, my partner. Claire's eyes widened slightly as she took in our clasped hands, a flicker of something, regret? Jealousy? Passing across her face. It's lovely to meet you, Phoebe. You must be quite the inspiration. These photos, they're full of life. Love. Phoebe nodded, her voice cool. Julia has a way of bringing out the beauty in everything she sees. The tension in the air was palpable. I cleared my throat, desperate for an escape. If you'll excuse us, I should really make the rounds. It was. Good to see you, Claire. As we moved away, I could feel Phoebe's unease radiating off her in waves. We made small talk with guests, but her smile never quite reached her eyes. It wasn't until later, as we were packing up to leave, that she finally spoke. So that was the infamous Claire. I nodded, suddenly exhausted. Yeah, I had no idea she'd be here. Phoebe was quiet for a long moment, her gaze fixed on one of the photos, a candid shot of her laughing, her head thrown back, joy radiating from every pore. Did you ever look at her the way you look at me through your lens? The vulnerability in her voice broke my heart. I cupped her face in my hands, forcing her to meet my eyes. Never, I said fiercely. What I feel for you, Phoebe, it's beyond anything I've ever experienced. You're not just my muse, you're my heart. Her eyes searched mine, looking for any hint of doubt. Finding none, she pulled me into a kiss that left me breathless. Take me home, she whispered against my lips. That night, we made love with an intensity that bordered on desperation. Each touch, each kiss was a declaration, a promise. I worshipped every inch of her body, committing it to memory as if it might be the last time. In the quiet aftermath, as we lay tangled in sheets and each other, Phoebe traced patterns on my skin. I'm sorry, she murmured, for doubting. For letting my insecurities get the best of me. I pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. You have nothing to be sorry for. I'm the one who should apologize. I should have warned you about Claire, prepared you. Phoebe shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. No more apologies, no more doubts, from either of us. Deal? Deal, I agreed, sealing it with a kiss that quickly reignited the passion between us. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the curtains, I watched Phoebe sleep. Her red hair fanned out on the pillow, her freckles standing out against her pale skin. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that this was it. She was my forever. As if sensing my gaze, Phoebe's eyes fluttered open. Morning, Shutterbug, she mumbled, her voice husky with sleep. I couldn't help but smile. Morning, beautiful. How about we play hooky today? Spend the day in bed, just us? Her answering grin was all the response I needed. As we lost ourselves in each other once more, I silently thanked whatever twist of fate had brought us together. The road ahead might not always be smooth, but with Phoebe by my side, I was ready for anything. Little did I know, the universe had one more surprise in store for us, one that would test the strength of our love and change our lives forever. The success of my gallery show catapulted my career to new heights. Suddenly, my phone was ringing off the hook with commissions and interview requests. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of professionally, but it also meant long hours and time away from Phoebe. One lazy Sunday morning, as sunlight filtered through our bedroom curtains, I broached the subject that had been weighing on my mind. Hey, I said, tracing patterns on Phoebe's bare shoulder. What would you think about moving in together? Phoebe's eyes lit up, a slow smile spreading across her face. I thought you'd never ask, Shutterbug. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of packing, planning, and stolen moments of passion between bubble-wrapped boxes. We found a cozy apartment with a spare room I could use as a studio, its large windows perfect for natural light. On moving day, as we carried the last box into our new home, I couldn't help but pull Phoebe close, kissing her deeply. Welcome home, I murmured against her lips. That night, we christened every room in the apartment, our laughter and sighs of pleasure echoing off the bare walls. As we lay tangled in sheets on our mattress on the floor, our bed frame still in pieces, I marveled at how right it all felt. Life settled into a new rhythm. Mornings were a dance of shared showers and quick kisses over coffee. Evenings were spent exploring our new neighborhood, finding hidden gems and making it our own. But as idyllic as it was, real life had a way of creeping in. My increased workload meant late nights and weekends spent editing. Phoebe's coaching schedule became more demanding as her team prepared for regionals. One night, after a particularly grueling day, I came home to find Phoebe sitting on the couch, a troubled expression on her face. "Everything okay?" I asked, dropping my camera bag and joining her. She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers twisting in her lap. "I got a job offer," she finally said, "in California. It's a really great opportunity." My heart dropped. "Oh," was all I could manage. Phoebe turned to me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I haven't given them an answer yet. I wanted to talk to you first. This is your home, your life. I can't ask you to uproot everything for me." I cupped her face in my hands, forcing her to meet my gaze. "Phoebe, you are my home. Wherever you are, that's where I want to be." Her breath hitched. You'd come with me?" "In a heartbeat," I said, meaning every word. What followed was a night of passionate lovemaking, each touch a promise, each kiss a declaration of devotion. As we lay tangled together in the afterglow, I knew that no matter where life took us, we'd face it together. The next few weeks were a blur of planning and preparations. I reached out to contacts in California, lining up potential clients and gallery showings. Phoebe finalized details with her new team. On our last night in Fort Lauderdale, we took a walk on the beach, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. As the waves lapped at our feet, I pulled Phoebe close. "I have something for you," I said, reaching into my pocket. I pulled out a small velvet box, my heart pounding. Phoebe's eyes widened as I dropped to one knee in the sand. "Phoebe," I began, my voice thick with emotion. "You've brought color and light into my world in ways I never thought possible. You're my muse, my partner, my everything. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Phoebe's face as she nodded, pulling me to my feet and into a kiss that left me breathless. "Yes," she whispered against my lips. 1,000 times yes. As I slipped the ring onto her finger, a delicate band with a moonstone that reminded me of her eyes, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. Our first night in California, we celebrated with takeout and cheap champagne on the floor of our empty apartment. As Phoebe curled into my side, her engagement ring catching the light, she suddenly sat up. "I have a confession to make," she said, biting her lip. My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" Phoebe took a deep breath. "Remember that first day at the rest stop? My car wasn't really broken down. I saw you taking photos and I was intrigued. I wanted an excuse to talk to you." For a moment, I was stunned, then laughter bubbled up from deep within me. "You little minx," I said, pulling her close. "And here I thought I was being so smooth offering you a ride." Phoebe grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Well, it worked out pretty well for both of us, didn't it?" As I captured her lips in a kiss, I couldn't help but marvel at the twists of fate that had brought us here. From a chance encounter at a rest stop to building a life together across the country, it was more than I ever could have dreamed. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through our new windows, I watched Phoebe sleep. Her red hair fanned out on the pillow, her freckles standing out against her pale skin. The engagement ring glinted on her finger, a promise of the future we'd build together. In that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, new jobs, wedding planning, building a life in a new city, we'd face them head-on together. Our story was far from over. In fact, it felt like we were just beginning. As if sensing my gaze, Phoebe's eyes fluttered open. "Morning, Shutterbug," she mumbled, her voice husky with sleep. I couldn't help but smile. "Morning, beautiful. Ready for our next adventure?" Her answering grin was all the response I needed. As we lost ourselves in each other once more, I silently thanked whatever twist of fate had brought us together. The road ahead was uncertain, but with Phoebe by my side, I was ready for anything. Our story, like the best photographs, was a snapshot of a moment in time, full of possibilities, brimming with potential. And as we stepped into our new life together,